It just started raining. This is not a waterproof camera. And then we started the race, and within like 8 steps, he was just like, "Eat my dust. I'll see you at the end." And I never saw him again until the finish line.
All right. Welcome back again, guys. So this is the podcast, Isaiah and Dana. But tonight, Dana's not with us. We got Austin here with us tonight.
Thanks for having me. You can call me Dana if you want to.
Not quite as cute. But the mustache is pretty glorious, though.
Thank you.
I do think that I think tonight we're going to get into politics and religion. What kind of role does religion play in politics? And the first question I've kind of been mulling over is, do you see the United States as a Christian nation?
I think objectively, yes. I think a lot of the Constitution was built around that. A lot of the founders were Christian as well. So, ergo, Christian nation.
Well, do you think we're still like trending that way in society today, or are we kind of just moving away from that entirely? And like, what does that mean for society moving forward?
I think since like the 1970s, it's been trending downward. The summer of love sort of thing, and a lot of people, a lot of secularism was pushed back then, but now there's been quite an uptick in Christianity. Young folks, younger than us, getting back into Christianity and finding their faith in Jesus Christ. So it's, in my opinion, it's trending upwards in the face of a lot of immigrants coming over with different religious beliefs.
I mean, so if we're having a lot of immigrants come into the country with different beliefs and different ideals, I'm kind of concerned about how that's going to change society. I don't know that that's necessarily like a positive thing. If we are moving towards a place where we all have different belief systems and different value sets, how is that going to change what the country looks like? And if ultimately we were founded as a Christian nation, what does that mean for Christians moving forward in this country? I mean, and that's not necessarily to like downplay the religious freedoms of others, but if other religious sects or groups are infringing on Christians or vice versa, then how are we going to handle that? I don't know what that means exactly. But
yeah, I think without having, since the nation was built on Christian morals and standards, if the population isn't following those standards from a Christian point of view, I don't think the moral fabric of our society here in the United States is really going to hold up that well. You can kind of see it. I mean, look at Minnesota. That's been pretty hot in the news, right? You have all these Somalian immigrants coming in, and there's quite a few of them to where they have their own little communities, which I think is fine. But they're building these businesses, which is also fine, but they're also allegedly defrauding the federal government for millions of dollars. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars for childcare, healthcare. There was another line of industry that they're in that they were defrauding for hundreds of millions of dollars. So if you don't have honest people who are living by the rule of law, they're going to come in and basically take it for all it's worth, and then allegedly send it back to Somalia to fund terrorist groups. Allegedly.
Oh man, I don't know how much of that's allegedly anymore. Have you seen any of the stuff that Nick Shirley's doing?
Oh, dude, I've been all over those videos lately. It's wild how blatantly obvious some of this is.
Yeah,
Like that, like the what is it, the Quality Learning Center, and it was spelled Learing, Learing.
yeah.
They forgot the N, and it was on a big sign in front in front of the children's center there, and yeah, it's I don't know, but that's why we need
Doesn't feel like a lot of high quality,
Christians.
but yeah,
No, yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of like one of those hard questions, that to 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 really look at, like, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean to, like, be a Christian in society today? Like, are you supposed to vote along? Are you supposed to vote your conscience, or are you supposed to keep religion out of politics? Like, where do you draw the line at between, being a Christian and, uh, still being involved in politics without, for a lack of better words, like stepping on other people's toes?
Yeah, I think I everybody should vote with with their morals, right, and what they think is right. And if you have a bunch of Christians voting, and they're using their morals that they got from the church, I think everything's going to kind of pan out the way it should. That's not to say that that's not how it's worked out in the past,
Right.
but I feel like a lot of people can be swayed by public opinion. Watching the news, everybody's susceptible to that, propaganda and stuff like that. So, and we get a lot of politicians in there that say they are. Look at Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi. They, they're both Catholic, right? Roman
Right.
Catholics, and they both advocate for abortions. And so it's kind of like, well, yeah, I don't know. And there, I know a lot of Catholics that are kind of like, oh, it's their body, sort of thing, that line. And there are some that, kind of like me, who would like it to be abolished completely, but vote in politicians that get what they can, right? We live in reality. And so there are only certain things we can do at the time. And it's shifting toward, our my favor, where, Roe v. Wade got abolished. And it's slowly shifting that way, to where we can kind of get more and more and more, and we want to just kind of incrementally kind of pull it back over the years. And I know there are some people who they won't even go out and vote, because they don't even want it to be incremental. They want it to be gone right now, right here, gone forever, which I agree with that hot take, but I know in reality that's not possible. So you should vote for the people who can kind of incrementally pull it back, and over the years we're going to get there.
Why do you think that that's not possible to, just say, like, no, we're gonna full stop change things right now? Like, do you, like, just to, like, put it in another light, if you will, what are we gonna do about the debt? Like, how are we going to incrementally pull that back unless we just full stop the abhorrent spending that we consistently have year after year after year after budget meeting and continuing resolution? And how can we not just, like, pull that back, like, right now?
Yeah, and again, I think it's a lot of I guess the status quo, right? You can't just with all of like the military or social benefits people have, you just can't pull that back right away, and it's going to hurt a lot of people.
It's complicated.
It's just it is. In reality, it just doesn't work like that. You just can't you can't just take the carrot, take it away, right? You gotta slowly slice off pieces, and let people kind of wean themselves off of whatever benefits or entitlements they have. You just can't just pull it off and think they're gonna get off of it all cold
So
turkey.
then, okay, so you're Roman Catholic, and from what I was reading, I don't know how accurate this is or not, but it seems like the Catholic Church is half Republican, half Democrat. So kind of like how does that work in your mind? Like you tend to lean a little bit more to the right wing, I think. So like in your view, how do you think that the right wing lines up better with Catholic teaching instead of towards the left?
Yeah, I can see how it kind of swings both ways. For the right, we're just talking about abortion. That's a right wing subject there, right? And that's a very controversial topic. It's a very it's always been a right wing thing, right? The abortion thing, right? And then over here you have your social libertarian stuff like SNAP programs. You have health benefit stuff. You have feeding the hungry. And all that stuff comes in from the government. All that money to fund these programs for people. And so I can see how it's split both ways on those two subjects.
In your view, as Christians, we're supposed to, help our neighbors and take care of the poor and all of that. But when you see something like what's going on in Minnesota with all of the fraud and the stealing that's going on, like that's federal taxpayer dollars that are being allocated to help Minnesota programs, and that's something that is being taken away from you in a sense, because you are paying taxes, you're a law-abiding citizen, but now millions and millions of dollars are being in essence stolen from you through the neglect and the waste of the government. So like how how do you view that as helping the poor, as like a moral thing to continue supporting?
Yeah, and I from a church purview, I think we should definitely help the poor and the unfortunate as much as we possibly can. But those programs are set up for a certain amount of people. There's only a certain amount of money in there. So if we flood the system with a bunch of people that the numbers weren't accounting for, it's taking away from the people who are already citizens here, have been here for years, and they're having trouble getting that aid because these people are flooding into the system. And the way the political climate is now, right? If you're an immigrant, like, you get preferential treatment. I mean, I don't think I'm wrong by saying that. Especially in Minnesota, you get Tim Walz up there, today saying just that. So, as long as there's, if we have more metered immigration, that we can account for all that stuff, we know how many people we're going to take in this year, and the budget can be set for such, and it's not taking away from the other people who really need it, then I'm fine with that. I'm fine with helping people. I think we should help as many as we possibly can.
It's such a hard one, because I don't, like, I want to help people. I want to, some people are just falling on difficult times, and I get that, and we should definitely help our neighbors out. But it's definitely hard to see, hard-earned money by American citizens going to causes and things that are very clearly not what they were intended for. So that can be frustrating. But how do we get to a place where, or even like, how do we do that? How would we like reset the system in such a way that we find the right people that actually need help versus people that are defrauding the system?
Yeah, and back in the day, and before we had all these social programs, before LBJ came in and had his Great Society uh, project that he put into place. How did we do that? There were still poor people back in the 1920s. How did we help those
question.
people?
I don't know.
I think it was, well, back in the 1920s, or it would be weird if you weren't Christian or Jewish or Muslim, and so there are a lot more people in the church, a lot more people giving to the church, and so since the church had a lot of money, they had more money to give back to the community that was giving to them to help poor people in need. So I think if we could get back to more people going to church, and you give the church, from what I'm told, you give 10% of your salary, which I don't give 10% of my salary. I think you give what you can, but even then, if we had 100% more people going to church or synagogue or temple, the churches would have a lot more money. I trust the church a lot more with my money than I do the government. To help out my community, and then it's community based too. On top of that, you're giving to your church. They're taking that money and they're giving back to said community because it's all localized, right? And so the people come in, they're church goers, or even the people who don't go to church yet. They reach out to the community, they help them out because they have the funds to do so. But right now, since the 70s, it's really pulled back. The churches don't have the money that they need to go out and basically be the Great Society that LBJ put into place back in the day with all these extra social programs. It was the church. The churches are the ones that go out and help the needy.
I haven't heard about that. The Great Society program?
Project? Yes. I'm paraphrasing. Real quick. I'm pretty sure on Great Society, broadside of domestic programs launched by Lyndon B. Johnson, LBJ, in the mid 60s to fight poverty, expand civil rights, and improve American quality of life.
Interesting.
I think that's where Social Security came from as well. Healthcare, Social Security, immense in 1965, created Medicare for seniors and Medicaid for, it just completely broadened the span, the scope of social, the social net in the United States.
Interesting. What a guy.
Yeah, thanks.
Dude, I got interested as we were kind of leading up to tonight's conversation, and I just decided to look at what presidents were, basically affiliated with what religions, and there were a surprising number of Episcopalians on there. Like, I've never really seen an Episcopalian church anywhere. I think maybe I've seen like one or two in the country, but I did not realize that, like, I think it was like 30 or 40% of like all U.S. presidents were Episcopalian.
Which is wild. There was there was one, if I'm not mistaken, one Roman Catholic president.
JFK.
Yeah. You know who the last president was that didn't kiss the wall in Jerusalem?
JFK.
You know what happened to him?
Yeah, he got assassinated.
I thought that was interesting. Correlation isn't, causation isn't correlation, but it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. That's for sure. But JFK is a fascinating character, that's for sure. But I don't really understand, like, what is it? The Catholic Church is one of the largest religious groups in the United States, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I don't know. But how is it such a large organization, but we've only had one
Right.
president be that. I don't think that I really count Joe Biden as being Roman Catholic. I don't think that while he was a president, he did anything. Not that JFK did either. I mean, I wasn't alive while he was president, so, and it sounds like he was kind of a playboy at the time. But I, I don't really think Joe Biden was really a Catholic. I feel like a lot of presidents also just kind of say, "Oh, I'm affiliated with this religion," to give them like moral authority, and then they kind of like get that voting block,
Right.
which I really don't like that.
And I always wondered why politicians don't get, excuse me, excommunicated from the church when they advocate. These Democrats advocating for abortion, right? So why doesn't the Pope or their Archbishop come out and just excommunicate him? Excuse me, excommunicate him from the church, right? And when I was in RCIA, it's called something different now, but it's basically the rite of Catholic initiation for adults. And so when I was going through that, we always had a question hour at the beginning of each class. And so my question was, how come some of these politicians like Nancy Pelosi, because I remember her on Ash Wednesday, it's when it's weird. It's not a holy obligation. It's not a holy day of obligation, but it's like one of the most known ones, days to go to church other than on a Sunday. And in Ash Wednesday, they put a charcoal cross on your forehead, right? Mm-hmm. And so Nancy Pelosi went to Mass on Ash Wednesday, and she had a press conference later. She had, she's standing in front of this pulpit with the ash cross on her forehead, advocating for abortion at the same time. And so, knowing that, I asked the deacon that was running the class, it's like, hey, why doesn't the bishop or pope just excommunicate some of these politicians that are advocating for things that obviously go against church doctrine?
Right.
And he said he had this story of this, I think it was a Congress seat in California, and the Democrat politician was, I don't know, maybe he had like 15, 20% of the vote at the time, leading up. And he was advocating for abortion. And so the Archbishop came in and said, you're not Catholic anymore, dude. If you're going to advocate for this goes against church doctrine, and you're don't come to church anymore. You're done. And there was a big news story on it.
Really?
And yep, it got out, and that kind of rallied a lot of the people behind him, because they're like, oh, screw the church. If they're going to get rid of him for what he thinks, even though it goes against church doctrine. The guy ended up winning. He ended up winning that Congress seat because the church excommunicated him, and justifiably excommunicated him. I think this was back in like the 60s, maybe 60s or 70s when this happened. It was a long time ago, and the church has learned its lesson, and they don't excommunicate politicians anymore because of that. Because it could rally support behind him. Yeah.
Interesting. I'm almost kind of disappointed in the church for that. Right. Like, shouldn't you like double down on that if you believe what you say you believe, and like stand your ground on that one? I mean, right. Just like, you can't just bend your knee to politicians. Like, just because somebody makes a law or says something doesn't make it right. I mean, there's been tons and tons of unjust laws throughout history made by politicians, and like, you can't just go along with that. You need to continue to try and do what's right, regardless of the pressure that you get.
Yeah, but a lot of people would say, what is even right, sort of thing, and that's a whole other discussion.
It's a big rabbit hole. What is right and wrong? That's a fun one. Might need to be an apologist for that one, though.
Well, I mean, what is? Oh, I mean, to you, what is a right? Like, as in, like, I'm talking like amendments. What is right? What is a right to you?
That's a good question. Let's take a quick break and we'll come right back on that. What is a right? So we're back on with how did you frame it? What is a right?
Yeah.
What is a right?
Yeah, what is a right?
In my opinion, I think that a right is something that is like granted to you by God, like freedom of speech. I feel like that is a right. I feel like that should be a right across the board. Like, you have a mouth, you have the ability to say anything. Granted, there are consequences to the things that you say, but everybody should have the free platform to say whatever they want.
Right, but do you have to do that though?
You don't have to. You have the freedom to choose.
So, I think a right is a entitlement absent duty.
How
So,
so?
so like, freedom of speech, right? You don't have to use your voice. Second Amendment is the right to bear arms, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people who have that right here in the United States that don't have a firearm. So it's an entitlement absent duty. Voting's a right.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We have the right, the entitlement to vote, but you don't have to. If you want to, should you vote? Yeah, I think everybody should vote. Are there some laws that should be changed to change the voting age? I think so, but again, that's
what do you think the voting age should be?
Oh, if I had to put a number on it, 25.
25?
25 years old.
See, that's funny because I think it should be younger.
If you're, I'll put a caveat on that. If you're in the military, you can vote. If you're putting your life on the line for the country, if you have skin in the game like that, you can vote.
Okay, but why, in that instance, why is it acceptable for somebody to sign up for a military that's going to go fight and die in wars, but they're not old enough to vote? I understand that you gave that caveat, but why should it be held to 25? Like, under that premise, I think that you shouldn't be able to or required to serve in the military until 25.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
I could agree with that because your brain's not fully formed until you're 25.
Right, and that's why I picked that number. And so the draft would be anyone. It would have to be 25 years old. You couldn't go younger than that. I think a lot of people would be kind of back me up on that too, especially the guys who are 18 to 24 years old. They might back me up on that. But I mean, if you have skin in the game like that, like your own flesh and blood, I think you should be able to vote for the country that you willingly, voluntarily put your life on the line to support and die for.
Well, but then how are you going? How do you make it okay then that let's say you're 16, 17 years old and you understand everything that's going on. Sure, maybe your brain's not fully formed at 25, but at 16 you can get a driver's license. So why can't you vote? Why can't you have to abide by this law that says you have to wear a seatbelt, you have to pass this test to get a driver's license. You're using the community's roads and all of that. And if you have a job, you're then paying taxes to the system because you can get a job at 16 too. So why shouldn't you then be allowed to vote? You're a functioning member of society at that point. Why shouldn't you also be able to vote?
I mean, are you really a functioning member of society at 16 though?
Well, you have a job, so you're being taxed like it.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. You're getting taxed by the government, so why shouldn't you be able to vote?
You
That's
should
a
have
good
a say
point.
in that government.
But at the same time, would you want a 16-year-old girl to be able to vote?
No, that's a.
How informed is she compared to you and I, 30 some odd males who, I mean, I watch political news every single day. I say really informed. I definitely wasn't that kid at 16. And, we didn't have TikTok back then, but
Well, I think that
I was chasing tail back then and trying to pass my biology test. So I didn't give two shits what's going on in the world.
well, but I mean, there's a lot of 30-year-olds that don't give two shits right now either. So I mean,
Right.
but if you have like a big band of 16-year-olds, like the youth in the country right now is very, seems to be anyway, very vibrant about politics and where the country's going and things. And if you like, let's say you are somebody who's very intelligent like that, just like for instance, like Charlie Kirk, very hot topic lately. But he started Turning Point USA when he was 18 years old. And I'm sure that he had similar aspirations when he was younger, 15, 16, 17 years old. And so if you're somebody like that who's very intelligent and is, very articulate and well thought out, why should you have to wait, longer just because everybody else, is dumber than you? I mean, it's kind of like the freedom of speech thing. Like anybody should be able to participate if they want to, but they're not required to. I don't know. That's a complicated one, but I don't see what the big deal is with like why are we not requiring kids at a younger age to be functioning adults, to be functioning members of society? Why are we just allowing them to, oh, they're just a teenager. Oh, they don't really need to have responsibilities and all of this. Like you're 16, you can pull your weight. Why can't you? I'm not saying that I'm in favor of like child labor and stuff, but I feel like as a society we should expect more from our younger people instead of saying like, oh, you can just like wait, like you're in your 20s, you're fine, you'll get there eventually, figure yourself out. I do think it is important to figure yourself out, but I think we should put a little bit more responsibility and thoughtfulness on the younger generation. Personal opinion, but what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to the Charlie Kirk point, I mean, you get these prodigies that are very smart and know about the political structure of the nation. I mean, what do we do with that? Do we, I'm in favor of tests. Should we take a test to see if you're eligible to vote? And I know a lot of people probably come back on me on that, and say that's fascist, whatever. But
who's making the test though?
Back, what's that?
Who's making the test though?
Right, that's exactly. Who do we trust to make that test? Right,
yeah.
The government. Yeah, no. Heck, back in the day, even in the United States, only landowners and prominent people were able to vote back in the day. And eventually we got to we had female suffrage, the feminist movement, and women were able to vote, and minorities were able to vote, which I'm fine with that. I'm completely fine with that. But some of the people that you talk to nowadays, you kind of wonder, do they really know what's going on?
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, how do we know it's not a simulation?
Or are they just are they just their friend groups are like, oh, well, this guy over here, he's a terrible person, you should vote for this person. If you don't, you're not going to be my friend anymore, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Why not? Nobody can see what you vote for in the booth. Why don't you, a lot of people could just, vote for what they actually believe in the booth, and then they could just go and tell their friends that they voted for the thing that they want them to vote for. You know what I mean? But at the same time, you're really being true to yourself, or you're really being true to your friends. Should you get different friends at that point? Yeah, it's a kind of a tough.
Yeah, it's a catch-22. But that's an interesting like tie back into like presidents and religion and politics, because it seems like a lot of presidents and politicians will be like, oh, well, yeah, I'm a Christian, I go to this church, and they'll go to this, whatever church, pick an organization for like their entire campaign, and a few times throughout their tenure as a public servant. But then when they, in reality, they're turning around, going to parties and being like, yeah, to their donors, like, okay, yeah, I put on this face and I said I believe this and that and whatever, and we got the votes, but then, I'm going to go enact all of these policies. So where are we going to get the morals? When are we going to get people following through on their word? Like, I mean, I think that some of the things that the current administration is doing are positives, but I feel like there's a lot of negatives that are coming along with it, and I really don't feel like I can. I mean, and this could change. My ideas change all the time, but I don't feel like I can really honestly like support Trump anymore after the whole Epstein thing. Like, ran on it, said you were gonna expose it, said you were gonna bring all that stuff out. Nothing came of it. And then you just like complete 180 and said, no, there's nothing to see here. Like, come on, dude. Just.
Yeah, and then you have Bongino resigning on top of that, and his whole shtick was releasing all the Epstein stuff. Maybe he got told, no, we're not going to do it, brother. It's not going to happen. And he was like, well, shit, if that's not going to happen, then I'm out, dude.
Well, I know, but
you know what I mean? It doesn't look
like
good.
That didn't really like go very well for him though, because he did have that. I didn't watch the full thing, but I think he had that press conference with Kash Patel, where he, I guess in a way became complicit in it, saying, "Oh, there's nothing to see here. There's no files. He definitely killed himself. We've seen everything." Come on, dude. This is like the biggest bogus story in history, it seems like. I mean, Epstein, when did he die? 2020? 2021? It's been like 4 or 5 years, man. 2 administrations.
Yeah.
2. And it's still like the hottest story. It's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you're going to come back from that one. I mean, I don't know the guy. Best of luck to him, but I don't know, dude. Anyway, that
Well, and if you're Bongino, how do you go back to podcasting after this too? Like, what do you can't just come out and be like, oh yeah, this is what was actually going on. There's so many NDAs that he had to sign, after leaving. Like, you can't even really podcast anymore because everybody's gonna be like, what happened in the FBI? He's gonna lose his entire audience.
Yeah.
He's kind of, and he probably knows that too.
Yeah.
He knows that, but maybe I think he got put in a spot that was so bad that he was like, well, I guess I just kind of got to eat it for a little bit until this NDA's up.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, man. That one's a hard one. Here's an interesting question for you though. So would like, obviously, you're Christian, but would you be comfortable with Islamic or Jewish law influencing public policy in the same way that Christian beliefs do?
No.
Why?
No shot. Well, Muslim law, specifically Shia law. I mean, I don't even think a lot of the people on the other aisle for me would want that either. All the feminist movement, not that I agree with them, but all that would be gone instantaneously.
Well, but then you got like all the LGBTQ people that are like, gays for Palestine. That seems asinine.
You want to know what would happen to those people?
Yeah, it wouldn't be pretty.
No, they would like it, not one bit.
Well, and that's what makes
Jewish law.
Sorry, go ahead.
Jewish law, I could possibly live with, but even then, I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think of what would be inherently different about Jewish law because you look at Israel, and they seem like they're sort of a Western country themselves.
See,
I don't know.
that right there is like I don't understand. I don't actually understand what the differences are. I mean, I think that there's definitely a lot of differences. I haven't done enough research on what Jewish people believe,
Mm-hmm.
but I know they don't believe in Jesus Christ. So there's a big segue there. But I mean, I've been hearing a lot more about like the Talmud and the Kabbalah, but I haven't had the time to look into them or figure out what that even is. But I don't know, it raises some interesting questions on what the actual differences are between Jewish beliefs and Christian beliefs, because I'm not sure that they jive as much as everybody says they do.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that really is different than what we have now. With a Jewish society. I'm trying to kind of rack my brain and come up with something, but
I mean, have you?
I mean, over the past few years, they've definitely been quick to arms, I guess, which I don't think is a terrible thing. I think with all the money and guys we have out there and all the technology, I think we could kind of use our influence a little bit better. Whereas Israel has less guys. They have basically the same technology, but they kind of flex their influence a little bit more. They're probably maybe more than they should. But yeah, I can't think of other than not using electricity on Sundays. I would definitely be opposed to that.
I think it's Saturday.
Is it Saturday?
I think it's Saturday. Because I'm pretty sure the Sabbath goes from Friday night to Saturday night.
I can't remember. Yeah, I can't remember which one it is, but I know most of the people who live in Israel are they're Jewish, but they're not practicing Jews. But people like your favorite podcaster Ben Shapiro, I've heard him talk about how on some Saturdays they'll have they can't use the oven because it's electric, so they have everything all ready, and it's like, oh, okay, dude, yeah, who do you have turning your light switches on and off for you on Saturday or Sunday or whenever it is? Like, who from the Daily Wire do you pay to use your electronics for you? You know what I mean?
Well, and okay, if you can't use electricity, what about gas? Why don't you just get all of your stoves switched to gas?
Well, how does that gas stove get lit? That gas will go, and then how does it?
That's a good one.
Yeah. See, same with cars.
You could use a lighter.
How does that combustion engine? Yeah, unless you drive a diesel. But even then, there are electronics inside of the vehicle itself, but it's not using a spark to ignite the combustion process.
Got to use an analog. Who knows? No, that's interesting.
Get a Jeep from the 1960s.
Well, I feel like you said in our last podcast that we did that you were going to read the Quran this year. So maybe you read the Quran, I'll read the Talmud.
That's on the list. I actually got from my in-laws. This is something that was kind of a hot topic, but
what is that? The Crusades, the authoritative history of the war for the Holy Land. Who's that by?
Thomas Asbridge.
Never heard of him.
I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but yeah, it's I'm not very deep into it yet, but there's lots of maps, which is really cool. So I'm looking forward to digging into that.
Dude, I got a good one for you.
For sure.
So this is the book that started it all for me, I guess. It's called The Great War for Civilization. You'd love it. It's written by Robert Fisk. I don't have it anymore. I don't know what happened to it. I bought it when I was like 14 or 15. It just happened to be like a cool looking book that I saw at Books A Million in the town I grew up in. And so I just like picked it up and started reading it. And it's a history of everything that happened in the Middle East from the 1970s through like the early 2000s. And yeah,
Ooh.
I guess Robert Fisk he's an English guy. He was a investigative reporter, and he was like one of the first guys to interview Osama bin Laden before bin Laden was a bad guy. Back when he was fighting with the Mujahideen. So that one was really interesting because I was reading that one when I was a kid, and I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? I have never heard this stuff before. This is not in the history books, and I've never heard of it on the news. So I think that one was the first one that kind of opened my eyes to like what's really going on in the world. But you should read that one.
What was that one you texted me about? Something of blackmail.
Oh, what did I?
The Free State of Blackmail.
Yeah, I texted you that as a note because I heard about it and I wanted to read it. What was that?
I think there's a couple volumes of that.
Really?
That's that Ian Carroll that I listen to every once in a while. That's like the dude pulls that book up. It's like always sitting on his desk. He'll like pull it up and show it to the screen and be like, this is this is the reading chat needs to get into if you really want to kind of dig into what I'm digging into.
Oh, that's what it was. One Nation Under Blackmail.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's some female writer, I think. I don't know. But
yeah, I'll have to look into that. I haven't read that yet, but it's on the list. But I printed out my book list today, and it's gonna be a lot. I made up a schedule of all 365 days, and I have to read a book every 3 days if I want to get through the entire entire year.
Even if I had hours to read through, if I had like 3 hours a day, no way. This thing is almost 800 pages. No
I gotta
shot.
tell you about this. This is pretty funny. My wife and I like to watch Candace Owens from time to time, and the other night we were listening to her she was talking about this book Chaos, which I've read. It's a fantastic book. You should read that one too. But she was talking about that and how she goes to Cabo and she was, reading this book and was like, "Hey, honey, I got to tell you about this." Just trying to tell her husband about all these things she's learning and coming across. And Dana was like, "Oh, that's exactly like you. Like you're just like Candace, and I'm like her husband." Because this is a funny story. When we went to Cabo a few years ago for our anniversary, and I was reading through this book. What was it called? It's called The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich. It's a history from a reporter that like lived in Germany leading up to World War II, and then he became a correspondent after the fact, or after the war started, and reported on the whole war. And it's his account of everything that happened. And anyway, on the front of the book, it's just like a giant swastika, and then it says the title and everything. And we're going to Cabo, and I took this book with me because I was like halfway through it. It's like 1,200 pages, and took it with me. And they like decided to like go through my bag, and they just like pulled out the book, and I was like, "How's it going?" Like, just a history book, guys. I promise. You can read it. It's nothing bad. Yeah, it's pretty funny, but. Yeah, when in Cabo, but
that's I mean, some of these books I really like to read, like obviously you mentioned the Quran, like toting around the Quran, right? And somebody goes to my bag. It's like I'm not Muslim. I'm just trying to understand.
Just curious.
You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? I don't think that book will sway me one way or the other when I get to reading it, but it would just be nice to kind of understand. Yeah, if anything, it's almost like a history book. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It's gonna read kind of like the Bible, and I hear it's a fairly short read at that point. Like probably I think less pages than My Crusades book.
Oh yeah, the one that I have is tiny. It's like that big, and it's like a little. Yeah, it's not big at all. But
and the thing about the Quran is, I guess they're a little bit I know about it is so back when Muhammad was still alive, there were no written pages of the Quran. Like they had guys who memorized all the verses of the Quran and they would preach it. And then so when Muhammad died, there was a power struggle, and a lot of the people, the old guys who had memorized it, or were starting to die off. And so they're like, well, what do we do? And so they started to write it down, and they made sure it was exactly what the guys had preached. And it was years before it even got translated, because they didn't want it translated to English or anything like that. So because they wanted it to be just one book. The Bible has, you have the King James, you have the new Christian version, and
yeah, sure,
you have all these different other ones, right? Where the Quran is just apparently just the Quran. Like this is, there's no translation. There's no, it is what it is. Apparently, and that's what they all the Muslims say, is that the Bible was up for interpretation, and it was written by you have John Luke, all
right.
Those guys who wrote the New Testament, and that a lot of it is kind of it's not cohesive, and it's like, well, all right. I mean, I guess you have somewhat of a good point, I suppose. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know. That one's hard, but it's all hard. Kind of depends on how you look at it.
Yeah, in the stories, I mean, especially the stories in the Bible, I mean, you could translate it as much as you want, and there might be some diction there here and there where it's not exactly the same, but the moral of whatever story you're reading gets across, right? You're gonna kind of take away from it, what you would have if you were reading it in Arabic or English. You know what I mean?
Well, I heard somebody put it this way one time, where they say that the Quran is like verbatim. Every translation's exactly the same, but I don't know this for sure, but I heard somebody say that like there are a lot of like little minor differences that turn out to not be so minor in the translation of the Quran. But in the Bible, yeah, there's like different accounts, but that almost adds a better layer to the historical foundation of it, because you're getting multiple perspectives of the same story. You and I can see the same exact thing happen, but we're going to notice different things. Like we both go to a football game, and like you sit on this end and I sit on that end. We're going to see the same game, but we're going to see two different sides of it. You know what I mean? So it almost adds like a better layer to it, but that's the way I've heard it put anyway. But not a scholar, just trying to learn, ask questions. But let's wrap it up. So thanks, Austin, for coming on again, and fun conversation as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man. We'll see you again next time.
Yeah, see you again.
Have a good night, guys.